Welcome back to the Midlife by Design podcast. I'm your host, Lori Lisai, and I am a human design teacher and alignment coach here to help you as midlife women use human design to shed others' expectations and be who you came here to be. Today's episode is the first part of 3, where we are going to explore the ubiquitous phrase, "I'm fine." Have you ever said that? You probably said it a couple of times today, in fact. So we're going to dive into exactly what "I'm fine" means, how it's keeping us small, and how human design can help you to break this shitty habit. All right, let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to Midlife by Design, Midlife Mavens. So this phrase, "I'm fine," or "it's fine," I think has become this epidemic. And listen, like many of the episodes on here, I feel like I am often recording for myself because I have definitely used this phrase before and continue to use it when in fact it is not fine. And the thing is that we as women are taught to prioritize other people's comfort over our own truth. And this is where the good girl archetype really takes root from when we are young, right? It's like we are praised for putting other people's needs before our own. We are praised for not making waves. We are praised for keeping the peace and expressing things like being pissed off or being sad or even just feeling emotional and having tears or showing dissatisfaction. Any of those things are often met with discomfort from other people. It just makes them feel really uncomfortable for women to show their emotions. And that people pleasing and this conditioning makes us feel like, okay, we need to soften the blow or we need to make others feel better. And people pleasing can oftentimes be this nervous system response where if speaking out in the past or showing some of that emotion has led to being rejected in some way, or people looking at you like you're weird, or if it's led to some conflict, if you are making a point that maybe other people don't agree with, for example, and that leads to conflict, then what can happen is your nervous system can put that in the proverbial filing system. And subconsciously, you'll learn to suppress your voice and suppress those emotions because the body actually stores that suppression. And so what can happen the next time you're in a situation of wanting to share your thoughts or, you have emotion boiling up, your throat can actually constrict. You can find yourself with a clenched jaw. Your chest can tighten. You can start to shake. These are all nervous system responses. And what I want you to know about that is just that is your body keeping the score of things that happened in the past. Okay? And listen, this can be even what happened in the past, like lifetimes ago, which is why learning how to shift this behavior and stop this habit of tamping down your emotions, of quieting your voice, of saying you're fine. This is the kind of work that breaks generational patterns. And it's also why it's so, so important. The cost of saying "I'm fine" in your body can lead to what I was just talking about, that throat tightness. It can also lead to exhaustion, literally your body can just get so tired from constantly suppressing what you actually want to say. Your emotional symptoms can pop up. So, for example, you can feel really resentful. I think that is probably the most obvious one that many of you can very likely identify with. Like, sure, you feel resentful, and sometimes it may be a situation where you're feeling resentful and you can't even necessarily pinpoint why specifically, but you know that that is the emotion that you're feeling. And so if that's the case, I would invite you to get curious about this. Are you finding that you have been in a pattern of tamping down your emotions, of not speaking your truth? And if that's the case, that's probably what's leading you to this feeling of resentment. Another emotional symptom and cost of saying I'm fine or it's fine is a lack of clarity, which the reason that that can happen is because if you are using the it's fine or I'm fine as like this canned response to things, it can start to quiet your wants and your desires so much so that you really do start to question or lose connection with what it is that you do want. And that also means losing connection with yourself. So, yet another cost of just keeping this phrase on repeat and replay is that disconnection with who you are. And then energetically, what is the cost of saying I'm fine or it's fine? Ultimately, it's being out of alignment with who you came here to be. It's feeling like you are always speaking from obligation instead of speaking from your truth and who you are. So I want to talk a little bit about the human design connection and specifically the throat center, because the throat center is both our voice as well as our manifestation center. And whether yours is open or whether it's undefined or whether it's defined, is your center for bringing things into life, bringing things into fruition. It is how you get the thoughts and the feelings out into the world. And it's really your power of expression. The throat center is this place for communication. And when it's healthy, it allows us to speak with clarity and confidence because it is tapped into your truth. When it's conditioned, though, when it is suppressing its truth, then what happens is we tend to over-explain, or we stay silent, or we speak in ways that don't actually reflect our true selves. It may even mean that we have canned responses like it's fine or I'm fine that just blurt out of mere habit. It's like the easiest thing to say, so it just comes out. So there are a few different ways that the throat can be blocked or misused that I want to talk about. One of them is overcompensating. And oftentimes people who have open or undefined throats will find themselves in this sort of behavior. It's a common lower expression of this energy when you have an open or undefined throat. If you don't know, you should hit pause and go to my website, www.lorilisai.com, and download your chart so you can check. Do you have a defined throat? Is it colored in? Or do you have an undefined or open throat? Is it white? Okay. And so if it's open or undefined, what you might find is that you are overcompensating, which means you might be talking too much because you're trying to get attention or you feel like nobody's hearing you or listening to you. You might find that you're justifying yourself, like needing to explain where you're coming from. And you might also feel pressure to speak up first, to be the first to get noticed. By contrast, this would probably happen more often with defined throats, is when you're not expressing enough. So things like the saying, I'm fine, or it's fine. In order to avoid tough conversations, you just have these quick little quips that shut everything down. They're the opposite of an invitation to a conversation. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. So how are you potentially stuffing down emotions by using those quick quips? That is definitely a sign of the throat being blocked or misused. Another sign, the third sign that I want to talk about, is speaking from obligation rather than alignment. So this is where you say what you think other people want to hear or what other people expect instead of what you're actually thinking. What is the real truth? What would the real you say? And having the bravery to say that. Oftentimes when our throat is blocked or we're misusing it, we're just speaking what we think the other person needs or wants to hear. So also, I wanted to touch briefly here, and we will talk about this in part 2, about the connection between the throat and our womb, which is very interesting because, everything in our body is connected, but the way that we suppress our voice actually also mirrors how we're suppressing our emotions and our creative power, which is just another reason why it's so important for us to tap into this power and really speak our truth. So we will talk about that during the next episode, but for now, let's talk about how to shift from using the phrase, I'm fine, or it's fine, into your real truth. So the first step to making change is always awareness, right? We know this. We've been talking about this since the pod started. So an awareness check-in is first to notice, when are you saying it? When do you hear those words come out of your mouth? I'm fine. It's fine. It might even be simply when somebody asks, like, hey, how are you doing? I'm fine. So that's a great invitation to wonder, are you actually fine? And maybe you are, but is the word fine even an accurate description? What do you really want to say? I'm thinking of our 6 lines out there who are listening to this and being like, I hate it when people ask me how I'm doing because I just want to launch into what's important, like the meaning of life. Let's talk about that instead of, how are you today? So what is it that you actually want to say? How are you feeling in the moment? You could even just talk about that. And then when you hear the phrase, I'm fine, coming out of your mouth, how do you feel it in the rest of your body? What does it feel like in your chest? What does it feel like in your throat? How does it feel in your belly? What are the thoughts going through your head? So all of these things together, tune into your body to truly understand what are the signs, what are the signals that your body is sending you about this phrase. The next thing to do after you start to notice these kinds of things is to experiment with replacing I'm fine or it's fine with a softer truth. So, maybe somebody asks you, how are you doing today? And frankly, you've had a shit day or you are mental raging. Say something like, you know what? I'm working through something right now. And honestly, it kind of sucks. Or, I need a little bit of space to figure out how I feel right now. So come back around with that question. Another thing, especially for the open throats or undefined throats who sometimes struggle with finding words, just say, I don't have the words quite yet, but I know that I'm not really fine right now. So you're not skirting around the issue. You're not trying to avoid them having uncomfortable feelings to listen to. You're just being truthful about your inability to really name how you're feeling in the moment. And then the next step, step 3, after awareness, after working with some softer truths, would be to journal about using this phrase and try to uncover your patterns. When did you first learn that it was safer to say, I'm fine or it's fine, than actually be honest? What were those first few experiences that you had that really challenged your truth sharing? Another question to consider is, what are you afraid will happen if you do speak your truth? If you do actually say, you know what, I'm not fine. This sucks. Or this is actually what I'm feeling. I can't do this thing and I'm really freaking upset about it. And the last question I'll leave you with is, how does your throat feel when you think about expressing something vulnerable? And this is, again, an exercise for you to really tune into your body. Tune into how your body feels, even when you just think about expressing something that feels vulnerable. Okay, so in closing here, I just want to recap that I'm fine or it's fine is often a conditioned response. And it disconnects us from our truth because we aren't actually saying how we truly feel in the moment. We're not letting our true selves be expressed in the moment when we're using this phrase. And the throat center plays a huge role in how we express ourselves, in what we let come through, in what we share with other people about our truth. It's also connected to our womb energy, which again, we'll talk about in the next part of this series. And that means it's connected to our ability to create and to feel and to express fully, which is all the more reason why we really need to break through this habit and tap into the strength of the womb-throat connection. So we're going to dive further into that in the next episode. So I want you to reflect on your own relationship with I'm fine or it's fine, and start noticing, when do you say it and what's really happening inside your body. So if this resonates, I would love for you to share this episode with a friend who needs it and hit that follow button. And remember that next time we're going to explore the connection between your womb and your voice, which you do not want to miss. So thank you so much for tuning in today. All right, Midlife Mavens, it's time to get off the fence and get onto a plane. Can you imagine gifting yourself with an amazing retreat surrounded by other midlife mavens who are doing the same deep inner connection work that you have been doing and that you want to continue doing? This is the magic of our Costa Rica retreat. So if it's been calling you, I invite you to jump on board with us. Embrace your fuck it era and make it happen. This is it. This is your time. We are leaving in just a few short weeks. So the link is in the show notes. Choose the room that lights you up and imagine waking up in the jungle oasis and being so thrilled about the kind of week that you have and then everything that you have to look forward to, even when you come back, because there will be online support for you to reintegrate into real life after you have this amazing experience. So thank you so much for joining me today. And as always, I am sending you the strength to let go of what no longer serves you, joy to fill your days, and the clarity to be who you came here to be.